All right, so now let's get a little bit more theoretical. I'm going to show you guys some easy ways to connect note names with intervals, but don't get scared about the note names. You know, look, even if you don't want to like memorize a note name per se, this exercise or this approach will also help you at least understand intervals. And I think understanding intervals is far greater of a musical tool than knowing a note name per se, okay? So for example, if I want to have a minor chord, I'm going to play a root and a minor third at the very minimum, right? That'll give you like a E minor chord, for instance. Now, I want to do this easily, starting from the root and getting that minor third. And I want to just do it as efficiently as possible. So let's say I start on the E on the A string. A minor third is going to be right there. So what do you got? You got a whole step away. So anytime you start on the root, a minor third will always be one whole step descending from that root on the adjacent bottom string, okay? So remember that. So you got an E, right? Anytime you got an E. Anytime you got an E. Okay, now this right here. Okay, so anytime you got an E anywhere on the fretboard, you can get to a minor third and actually be playing a minor chord just by going down one whole step, except, of course, from the G to B string, which I did last, and that's going to be one half step below on the adjacent string below. So imagine like you're playing and someone says the key of E, and you find an E on the fretboard somewhere, wherever you know an E is. It can be here, it can be here, it can be here, like when you're tuning the guitar, right? You'll automatically be able to play in minor because that's that third right there. And I'll be very transparent with you. When I was early on, like jamming with pals in the garage, you know, I remember like when I got to my senior year, like I took this jazz composition, not jazz composition, but jazz band. And I had moved to Massachusetts, and I was living by myself. I had left home already, and I was finishing out my last year of high school. And I thought, I didn't know anybody. I thought, okay, let me join jazz band, you know. I thought I could rip because I could play like Led Zeppelin tunes and Rush and, you know, all kinds of like rock and roll stuff. But then, you know, I joined jazz band just because there was nothing called rock band when I was a senior in high school, unfortunately. That was just a bunch of us degenerates playing in a garage at that stage. But so what happened is that they put a piece of paper in front of me. I'll never forget this. I'll never, ever forget this. It was an audition. And the teacher, one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life on a musical front, this guy, Mr. Leonard was his name. He put a piece of paper in front of me, and he goes, okay, let's play this song. So he got on the piano and started playing. And I go, well, what do you want me to do? He goes, just improvise. I said, okay. I didn't understand what that paper was at all. And all it was a chart from a real book with the chord titles and the melody that was written in notes. But I had no idea what the heck it was. So he's playing piano, and I didn't do anything. You know, and I'm kind of like listening, and I don't know what to do, right? Because I'm trying to get into this jazz band, and I don't want him to know that I totally didn't know what he put in front of me, right? It was just total foreign language. So then I started improvising, and I fished around for a second, found the notes, but the patterns of those chords, the patterns came to me, and I was able to improvise. I'm not saying it was a legendary solo or anything, but I was able to improvise in key with some rhythmic value and some motifs and some melodic ideas. And afterwards, he's like, oh man, that was great, right? I totally BS'd. And it was funny because it wasn't till a few weeks later, he came up to me, he goes, hey man, let me ask you something. I said, what? He goes, you don't know what's on these pieces of paper that I hand out. I go, no, I don't have a clue. And he goes, that's what I thought. And so he began to teach me what that stuff was. And I learned, of course, when I went to Berkeley. But the reason why I tell you that story, it's not to tell you that I'm great in any way, because I'm definitely not. In fact, I was totally embarrassed and BS'd my way 3 weeks into this jazz band till I got found out. But what it is a story about, it's a story about telling you that you don't have to learn all this stuff, to make it so it's complicated in your brain. You can be a valid musician just by getting a basic knowledge with patterns and using your ear. And that's the goal here. I want you to be able to hear these intervals and know where they are at any given time, so that when you're in a situation where you got to play, all you need to know is where one of the notes is. So E, minor interval. That's a minor chord. Now, what is the difference between a minor chord and a major chord? It's going to be the third, right? The root's going to be the same. So you find the note, E, and then you play a half step on the adjacent string below. You can do that here. You can do that here. You can do that here. Remember, third and B string, or the G and B string, are going to be tuned differently, so you're going to have a different interval shape. Okay, it's going to be, if you did that here, this would be a fourth. This is the major third. This is the minor third. Okay, so if you look at it this way, the further away the distance is forward is going to be a higher interval number. This is a fifth. This is a sixth, minor sixth, and this is a major sixth. And this is a minor seventh, a major seventh, and then the octave. Okay, and then when you descend, you're going to start with the fourth being below, major third, minor third, major second, minor second, which is super cool, and then of course the octave is how you tune your guitar. That's the goal here. Just learn your intervals, and it's really simple. Once again, I'm going to show you. Starting from any note, you're going to have a fourth, descend to a major third, lower number, minor third, lower number, major second, lower number, minor second, and then of course the octave. Now, let's take it up one more notch, and let's see if we can get the string skip so that you can see a different pattern shape. So we have the fourth here right below the E. And right below that, if you string skip, you get the minor seventh. And then you get the minor, or the major seventh. And then the octave. So one thing that is super fun to do is to play octaves. So let's take the octaves on one string and play an E minor scale all the way up the octave. So it's going to be root, the 9 or the 2, minor third, fourth. Where else can you get the fourth? Right below. Okay, now we're starting to connect how you can go below or down the fretboard. And then you've got the fifth, the sixth, the minor sixth, minor seventh. So look at this. So I've got the octave. Right? So you can play these anywhere quickly and fast if you just know the patterns. And you also adding the knowledge of where the interval is, right? So to practice this, I suggest you practice it with the click, and what we're going to do is we're going to, in our minds, dictate intervals as we're playing them. So let's just do it with the E minor scale diatonic to G major, which would be the 6th, the Aeolian scale. And we'll start with playing it with the 4th ascending, and then go back down to the 4th descending in intervals. Here we go. I did that on the 2 adjacent strings. Then I descended using the string skip, the 2 till I got back to the 4th, and then I went down on the 2 adjacent strings down to the minor 2nd or the 9 or the major 2nd to the 9, and then I did octaves with the scale all the way up. Have fun with this. See you on the next one.